Hi everyone, and thank you for clicking on this video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than my normal ramblings, nitpicking various films and just being a general dick. This video is a clip from a podcast I was recently on called Mandatory Marvel and DC, which is hosted by Max Byrne. His podcast looks at iconic comic book titles from Marvel and DC and gives an overall review of them. He was kind enough to allow me on the show this week, and we spoke about Old Man Hawkeye, one of my favourite comic books, and it's just a little clip from the show in which we talk about Hawkeye's stature within the MCU. As always, please do subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content, and if you want to hear this episode, I will leave a link in the description, and you should definitely check out Mandatory Marvel and DC. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, what I do really like is they obviously show a flashback,
yes,
where sort of the Avengers die, and we see Hawkeye. Obviously, they keep him alive, and I like that. It's kind of I felt like it was kind of a reflection of how Hawkeye is seen sort of in the MCU, is that he's kind of the weaker one and not really a real hero, and he's of no threat. And I think it was a good plot point to add that to Hawkeye, and why is he so hell bent on getting revenge when obviously the odds are completely against him, and that he's trying to still prove to himself and others that he is a worthy hero, just because he hasn't got all these incredible powers like other Avengers did. He's still, an incredible hero. And I think it was a clever point to put in the comic, instead of just him deciding that, well, my vision's going, I might as well just take revenge. It was also a bit deeper than that, and that he feels regret, and he feels he's not good enough to be an Avenger, or be a hero. Yeah.
Like you said, that flashback issue is quite something, isn't it? Because you see all these heroes die. You see Thor die, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, Quicksilver, and many more all die at the hands of this gang of villains. And like you said, he's actually left alive, isn't he? Deliberately so. He doesn't escape. He doesn't sort of live to fight another day. They literally don't see him as a threat, do they? At the end, he's sort of down and says to them, "Oh, just finish me, get it over with." And I think one of them says to him, "Oh, well, we've killed," and I quote, "we killed off all the real heroes," I think they said, and they just leave him out of spite, if nothing else. That's quite something, isn't it? Because if he'd have been Captain America or Iron Man or Spider-Man or something like that, there isn't a cat in hell's chance they'd have left him alive, would they? They'd have finished them off, but they obviously don't see him as a threat. So that is quite something that I totally agree with what he's saying there. On a side note, actually, what do you think of the sort of representation of Hawkeye in the MCU? A lot of people think he's got quite a rough deal in terms of the amount of sort of involvement he's had in it, and he's only been in 5 films, and I would say 4 really, because I don't think you can count his sort of 1-minute cameo in Thor as much of an appearance. He's really kind of had the short end of the stick, wouldn't you say, within that?
Yeah, because I don't really even count his appearance in the first Avengers, considering the whole time he was under mind control and wasn't really Hawkeye the whole time. So he was only really in it the last 20 minutes, and at that point it's just all action. So there's nothing to do with his character. And then because I also in 2018 he'd only really been in 3 films, and he hadn't done much, and then obviously this comic out. So I felt it was kind of taking that, what people were saying about the character, that he's a bit rubbish, getting the short end of the stick, and kind of interpreting that into Sax's work with Old Man Hawkeye. For me, I like the character of Hawkeye, and they are doing more interesting things with him. I think obviously in Endgame he was a little bit more interesting. I would have liked to have seen him as Ronin a little bit longer or something like that. But at least they are noticing the issues they had with Hawkeye and addressing them, for me anyway. Maybe his TV series on Disney Plus will sort of dive deeper into him. I've always said I actually wouldn't mind this being adapted into the MCU if they were to do sort of multiverse films, and maybe do a film where sort of maybe Thanos did win and just move on from there, and you do an Old Man Hawkeye kind of film. I think that'd be perfect for him. I doubt that would ever happen.
You never know. Well, they are doing this What If animated series, aren't they, on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
which is going to take some alternative viewpoints of various characters. So you never know. I mean, nothing's off the table, is it?
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with what you say, though. I think he's been very marginalised on screen, hasn't he? I think Jeremy Renner's portrayal's perfectly fine, but I just don't think they've given him a lot to do, have they, really? I think Age of Ultron and Endgame are the only two films where he really had something big to bring to the table. Like you said, Avengers, he was a zombified character from the first scene until the end, and Civil War, he essentially was in about 3 scenes, wasn't he, when you break it down?
Exactly.
So, and Age of Ultron, they fleshed him out and gave him the wife and the kids and the farm and what have you. And then in Endgame, obviously, he had quite a decent arc going through what he went through. But he has been really underutilised. I'm surprised it's taken them this far into their journey, 20-odd films or whatever they're up to now, before they've pulled the trigger on giving him his own vehicle, albeit a TV series rather than a feature film.
Yeah, well, I would imagine a lot of that is probably Jeremy, because I know Jeremy Renner wasn't too happy with himself in his character in Avengers, and there were rumours bubbling around that he might walk away because it was just, right. I think he kind of saw it as a waste of time. So I think, yeah, they've addressed it. It's an odd one, seeing as one of the characters had to take the fall, and kind of Hulk did for a little bit, and then obviously they started when they in Age of Ultron sent him away, and I guess they kind of took a step back to think what they do with him. And I guess they've just decided now it's Hawkeye's time to move forward with. Obviously, I don't think films are right for him at this time. Now they're kind of moving away from the originals, but a TV series will just about do for him, really. I mean, he's not that big a character that people were up in arms about him, but I think he does deserve a little bit of recognition.
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, I don't think people were sort of clamouring for a Hawkeye film per se, but I think if they're going to give a Black Widow a film after they've killed her off, then they could at least give him his own vehicle. But in a way, I think a TV show would be better, because obviously it's going to be a lot. The running time will obviously be 3 or 4 times the length of a cinematic film, so they can take the time more and get more, a more nuanced take on the character and explore him a bit more. So I think it'll serve him well, to be honest with you. He's not the most cinematic of characters anyway. No. He's essentially a guy with a bow and arrow. He's not, a multi-powered, hugely spectacular character. So I think it'll be just fine, to be honest with you. I think he's always had, Hawkeye in general's kind of had a bit of not a tough time, but he's never, even within the world of Marvel Comics, he's never been seen as a genuine top tier A-list character.
He's complex of a character, I think, and he's always just been put to the background, as there's far more interesting characters that are being fleshed out.
Yeah. I mean, there's some school of thought that he's sort of Marvel's sort of poor man's version of Green Arrow, being created some 20-odd years after DC created Green Arrow. I mean, I know within Marvel and DC, isn't there, there's so many characters that are very similar. Like we just said, Green Arrow and Hawkeye. You could have, say, Ant-Man and the Atom, quite similar. Quicksilver and the Flash, Aquaman and Namor. There's always characters between the big two that are maybe not the actual characters are similar, but what they do, their skill sets are very similar, aren't they? So I think he's perhaps always been a bit overshadowed. Obviously, Green Arrow has gone on to be a long-running and successful TV show, hasn't it? Obviously, it's now come to an end, but it obviously was a big star within that universe, and sort of the whole quote-unquote Arrowverse was spawned out of that show, wasn't it? So I think he's just Hawkeye's never quite had that same level of a push, I wouldn't say.
Definitely not. And like we say, he's not an overly complex character, and I think Marvel are happy with the way he works within their universe, and there's no need to sort of expand on him.